Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament. We're reading Luke's Gospel up to chapter 20. This particular pericope is also in Matthew and Mark's Gospel. Mark fairly early on, part way through in chapter 11. Was Matthew, it's towards the latter part, as here. Kai ageneto en mia ton hemeron didaskon tes autu ton laon ento hero kai euangelizomen menu epistesen hoi archieres kai hoi grammates suntois presbyterois. And it came to pass on one of the days, and typically Luke, his chronology is always very vague. He just sort of says on certain day or just after that, and he's doing the same thing here. So on one of the days, we're not told what days they were, genitive absolute, as he was teaching, this is Jesus, the people in the temple, and as he was proclaiming the good news, the chief priests and the scribes, along with the elders, stood against him, to get the epi in there. Perhaps stood beside him, but it's got a negative sense, I think. Kai epen legontes prosauton, and speaking to him they said, Epon hemin en poia exousia tauta poies, etis estin hodusu ten exousian tauten. The question here. Now you'll notice here the accent on apon. If you look back to, say, another version here of the same verb, you see the accents on the first syllable. This tells us immediately that this is an imperative. When the accent's over the diphthong here, it's just the ordinary tense, and here it's the imperative. So speak to us by what sort of authority are doing these things, or who is the one having given, participle from didomi, to you this authority. Apekrithes de apen pros autus. And having answered, he said to them, Erotes humas cargo logon, kai epetemoi, to baptisma io anu ek uranu en ex anthropon. And so, having answered, he said to them, I will ask you, and the cargo for is kai ego, so, and I also will ask you, logon, a word, we might say a question, and speak to me, so tell me the answer. The baptism of John, so was the baptism of John from heaven or from men? Hoi de sonologisanto prosiautus legontes hoti ean epomen ex uranu ere diati uk epistiusati auto. And they, this is from sul lego, so debating among themselves, and we get prosiautus as well, so they were discussing among themselves, saying, and then this is inverted commas here, the hoti recitative, if we might answer, perhaps, from men, ere, he will say, diati, on account of what thing, that is why, did you not believe him? Ean de epomen, but if we say ex anthropon, John's power came from men, or his authority came from men, holaos hapas katalithase hemas, pepeus menos ga esti ioanen propheten enai. For the whole people, now this is plural in English but singular in Greek, so the whole people, it's you get the singular verb, but we have to put it into plural in English. The whole people, they will stone us. And again, we get a participle here, perfect passive participle, but it's singular because it's agreeing back with laos. The people having with estin, for they have been persuaded about John to be a prophet, so that John was a prophet. Kai epikrithes and me eidenai, and they answered, not to know from whence, literally. So they said that they didn't know from where he got the authority. Hode Jesus penautois, and Jesus said to them, Udi ego lego humin en poia exousia tauta poio, nor will I say to you, by what sort of, this is poios, by what sort of authority, poio, I do these things. We get another parable here, which again is in following on in Matthew's Gospel and also in Mark's Gospel. This is the parable of the vineyard and the tenants. Erxata de proston on legain ten parabolen tauten. Anthropostis effutusen ampelona kai ex edeta auton georgois kai apodemes chronos hiconus. And he began, this is Jesus of course, to speak to the people this parable. A certain man, effutusen, he planted, this is from futuo, he planted an ampelona, from ampelone is the nominative, third declension noun, a vineyard, kai ex edeto. Now this is connected with didomi, but it's a later verb. The verb here is ek didomai, formed from the same root of didomi, but it's been regularized into an omai middle verb. It means to let out for hire. So he hired it out, that is the vineyard, georgus, to, tenants, literally workers of the land. This georgus is from gay, the land, plus the erg root. So those who work the land, it's really farmers, husbandmen or something, farmers. This is from apodamio, which means to go abroad. It's a good classical word, to leave your land, to go abroad. So he went abroad, chronos hikonus. Luke uses hikonos, which normally means sufficient. He uses it quite a lot, meaning many. So he went away for a very long time, literally for many times. So it's just a way of saying for a long time. Kai kairo apestelem prostus georgus dulon hina apot tu carpu tu apollonos dosus in auto. And in, we would say, in due season, perhaps for kairos here. Kairos means a period of time or a season. So we might say in due season in English. He sent a doulon, a slave, to the farmers, hina, in order that they will give. Now we get a hina with a future here, not a subjunctive. It's not usual Greek, but just note here we get hina plus the future, that they will give to him, and we get we have to supply some of the fruit of the vineyard. So a slightly odd expression here. And the verb's been separated quite a bit of a way from hina, which is why they might have been put into the future here. But so in order that they will give to him from the fruit of the vineyard. Hoi did georgoi ex apestelan auton derantes kenon, and the farmers, having beaten him, they sent him back empty, kenon, empty-handed, we'd say. This is we'll send on this in a minute, but this is an example of what you often get in Greek. It's got a special name. It's sometimes called a proteron husteron construction, where you have the thing that comes first is put second, and the thing that comes second is put first. So the point is they beat him first, and then they sent him out, or sent him back. But the Greek does it the other way round, and that's just one of the features of classical Greek, in fact, and Luke is using that particular trope here. So the farmers, having beaten him, they sent him back, sent him out, perhaps out of the vineyard, kenon empty-handed. Kai pros etheto heteron pempsai doulon. Now this is from pros tithemi plus the infinitive, and this is again, it's a bit of a Hebraism here, it's a Septuagintalism. It's quite a common construction in the Septuagint. You translate it as something like proceeded to. Prostithemi is to add, is the original meaning. We get words like prosthesis and so on from that. So to continue to do something, probably best to translate as proceeded to. So he proceeded to send heteron doulon, another slave, or another servant. Hoi de kakenon derantes kai atemasantes ex apostelen kenon. And notice here we get the reverse order to what we had above. So we get a kind of chiasmus here. So they, now the kakenon is kai ekanon. So they, having beaten him also, and having, well, it's more than just dishonour. Artemazdo is to treat very shamefully. So to mistreat, it's more than just insult him. It's to mistreat in many ways. They sent him out, understand, at the vineyard, kenon empty-handed. Kai pros etheto triton pempsai, and we get the construction again, and he proceeded to send triton a third one. Hoi de kai tuton traumatisantes ex epilon. And they, having wounded, from traumatisdo, we get the word trauma from that, of course, and they, having wounded this one also, ex ebelon, they cast him out. Apen de hokurios tu hamatolo ampelonos, typoieso pempso ton huion mu ton agapeton, issos tuton et in trapesontai. And the master of the vineyard said, Typoioso, what will I do? I will send my son, the beloved, I will send my beloved son. Issos, perhaps. So perhaps, this is from entrepomai, and this in the middle, it means to have regard for, to have respect for. Has a different meaning in the active, but in the middle, and this is a future here. It's actually a future passive form, but it has the meaning to have respect for. So perhaps they will show respect for him. Idontes de auton hoi. I'm just thinking here with this. This is actually is a middle form, isn't it? But a funny linking vowel here. It looks a little bit like a future passive, but it could be just a future middle here. So perhaps they will have respect for this one, for him. Idontes de auton hoi georgoi de logisdon topros elelus legontes hutos estin hoc kleronomos. And having seen him, the farmers reckoned among themselves, saying, or debated or discussed among themselves, saying, this is the heir. Apoktenomen auton hemon genetai he kleronomia. We get a hortatory subjunctive here, so let us kill him in order that the kleronomia, the inheritance, might be ours. Kai ek balontes auton exo tu ampelonos pectenan. Now again we get this reverse, this proteron husteron construction. They killed him and then they threw him out, but the Greek says it the other way around. So, and they killed him, understand him, and having cast him out from the vineyard. Tiun poiesai autos hokurios tu ampelonos. What therefore will the Lord of the vineyard do to them? Eleusetai kai apolese tus georgus tutus, kai dose ton ampelona alois. So the he will come, future from Erchomai. This is the Ionic future. Classical Greek uses Amy Ibo for the future Erchomai, but Ionic Greek, as you'll see in Herodotus, uses Eleusemai as the future, and that's the one you see most of the time in the New Testament. So he will come and he will destroy these farmers, and he will give the vineyard alois to others. Accusantes de epan, and having heard, they said. Now this is the they is referring to the I think the scribes and Pharisees here. Me genoito, may it not be. And he emblepsas autois apen. He, having looked at, well, stared at them, having looked into them really, having looked them in the eye, he said, what then is that which has, what then is this thing, tuto, the thing having been written? So what then is this verse which has been written? Lithon hon apedokimasan hoi oikodomuntes hutos egenethe eskephalein gonias. The stone which the builders, the oikodomuntes from oikodomio, rejected. This is from apodokimazdo. More than just rejected, it means to reject after examining. It means it's a good classical word, really. A dokimasia was an examination that officials had to have their works examined and their time in office examined, and this means to reject after having examined it, was the original meaning, but probably weakened over time. We'll just translate it by reject. So the stone which the builders have rejected, now this is just in the accusative here because it's just a verse taken from a different context. This one, that's the lithos, it has become literally into the head of the corner. So this again is a technical expression meaning as a cornerstone. The cornerstone bears all the weight, so it's a very important stone that it be properly cut and prepared. So the stone which the builders rejected, this one has become as a cornerstone, literally into the head of the corner. Pas hopeson ep ekanon ton lithon sun thlasthesatai. Ef hon an pese likmese auton. It's a very odd phrase, this here. Everyone falling, literally everyone falling upon this stone. This is from sun thalao. It means to shatter in pieces. Thalao is to shatter. And this is a future passive here. The word occurs nowhere else in the New Testament. It's occasionally used in the Septuagint. So everyone falling upon this stone will be shattered in pieces, and upon whomever it might fall, likmese auton, it will, well, generally translated, it will crush him. The verb itself is a very strange verb. It's from likmos, which means a winnowing fan. So it's literally, it shall winnow him. That is, it will sweep him away, perhaps, might be more the sense of it, but I think it's often translated just as crush. but it is connected with this idea of winnowing with the wheat. Kai et setesan hoi grammates kai hoi archiheres epibalen ep autun. We'll have to go to the next page. And the scribes and the chief priests were seeking literally to lay, and the tus goes with keras, epauton, literally to lay their hands upon him. So embalan can often mean attack, but it's to lay their hands upon him. En aute te hora, in that very hour. Kai, we would say but the Greek has and, but really it's but, ephobethus and ton laon, but they were frightened of the people. Egnosan ga hoti prosautus apen ten parabolen, for they knew that he spoke this parable, perhaps against them, but really it's in their direction. It was aimed at them. So you might paraphrase it here and say, for they knew that he aimed this parable at them. And that's the first part of chapter 20.